progressive budget, and it was talked about yesterday by Congressman Khanna. Now, as congressional Republicans push a mega bill that would add an estimated $2.4 trillion to the national debt, while giving lavish tax breaks to rich and gutting anti-poverty initiatives for the working class, Congressman Khanna on Tuesday unveiled a progressive plan to cut the deficit by what? $12 trillion. Remember, the big, beautiful bill, which we know better as the big, bad bill, is going to increase the deficit from anywhere from 2.5 to $4 trillion. This bill by Khanna, it's not magical. $12 trillion reduction in bill. Can that be done? Well, guess what? Democrats did it before. I wasn't able to play the video that I had for you yesterday, but the last time we had a balanced budget was in the year 2000 when Clinton was leaving office. He had several years of balanced budgets and debt reduction. It's possible. And when you do that, your economy explodes as it did under Clinton. Everybody talks about the Reagan miracle. They don't talk about the Clinton super miracle, because under Reagan, we got on the order of 16 million jobs over his two terms, 4 years, 8 years in the White House. But under Clinton, and by the way, and in the process of getting $16 million, Reagan blew the budget by, in those days, $40 billion, much more than anybody at that time. And he got 16 million. That was Keynesian economics on steroids. He got 16 million jobs out of that. Clinton got himself 20 something. I think it was 21 million jobs or 22 million, somewhere around there, million jobs. But at the same time, not with a budget deficit, but with a budget surplus paying down the debt. And that doesn't get advertised. And why don't you think that is advertised? That isn't advertised because the way it was done, it was to raise taxes, not by a bunch, not by the 70% during the Kennedy days for the highest tax rate, but by the 40% or so on income over a certain amount. In other words, if you make regular money, you don't pay a lot of taxes. But if you make an inordinate amount of money, you pay a larger marginal tax rate on that. And all of that together brought down the deficit by design. And also, other than those tax increases, there were also programs established. And these programs put money into people's pockets, which, because of a thing known as a concept in economics known as the marginal propensity to consume, which means if you give money to somebody who doesn't have money, they're going to spend it. And what does spending mean? Throwing that into the economy right away, buying more bread, milk, and all of that, which means the dairy guy gets more money for the extra cows that he has to milk. The farmer gets more money for the extra bread, the flour that's needed for the bread, etc. And the extra toy that you buy for your kid works all around, because you are moving money from people who don't have a high marginal propensity to consume. In other words, if I have $1 billion and I get $1 million tax cut, am I going to put that $1 million into the economy? Hell no. There's nothing that is stopping me at all. Nothing that is stopping me at all from getting the things that I want. So I don't add any more to the economy. I don't spend any more by getting a tax cut if I'm wealthy. It doesn't work that way. But if I go ahead and tax the wealthy, and remember, all that wealth was made on your back anyways. If I tax the wealth, right, and I throw that back into the person's hand in the form of education, in the form of subsidies for healthcare, subsidies for all these other things, that is extra money that person has to throw into the economy. And they do it. And how do we know that? We have the Reagan, when it comes to successful presidents economically. We had the Reagan experiment where we increased the deficit. We got some jobs, but we exploded the deficit. And we have the Clinton example that we we had a substantial surplus as well as an enormous amount of work because of more. We have the data, folks. We have the data to prove this stuff. And the reason the media does not centralize on this is that the solution is that the wealthy are going to pay more, deservedly so. Okay? The California Democrats' Progressive Deficit Reduction Plan, introduced in a report and floor speech, has 5 recommendations. Modernize the military, $850 billion. Get rid of upcoding and fraud, Medicare Advantage. And we shouldn't get rid of upcoding and fraud and Medicare Advantage. We need to get rid of Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage is a fraud on the American people. And anybody who sells Medicare Advantage, please feel free to call the program. Let's talk about how it really, really works. Call the program, please, my brothers and sisters who are out there convincing your mama, your daddy, and people to take Medicare Advantage. It is a fraud on the American people. Call, please call, and try to defend it. He gets another $170 billion by getting rid of fossil fuel subsidies, $200 billion by Medicare drug price control. Khanna's proposal points out that the Pentagon, which has a budget of nearly $1 trillion, has never passed an audit, and that getting ripped off by contractors is an issue not only at the Department of Defense, but across the federal government. So why are our bills so high by the federal government? Because who rips us off again? Private sector contractors. The $1 trillion Pentagon budget has never passed an audit. And you know what? When Doge came into the fold, they closed down stuff that keep people alive and things that murder people, like big bombs and all of that. None of that let's see where the money is going. None of that was looked into by Doge. But USAID cut over 200,000 people dead so far. We have to be honest with the way we look at these things. So the document also emphasizes the need to crack down on fraud involving Medicare Advantage and argues that there's absolutely no reason for Americans should pay 2 to 4 times more for prescriptions that people in Canada, Germany, or the UK pay. Let me just say one thing about a person policy that I know. They have an insurance policy for drugs. Guess what the drug company called and asked them? I'm not a drug company, it's an insurance company. Is it okay if we ship some of your drugs that you use, your medical drugs, from Canada? Of course, the person said yes. But think about that. Having to buy drugs from Canada to get a cost reduction, as opposed to us getting the right price for drugs that we use our tax dollars to develop. Specifically, Khanna's proposal restores the domestic corporate tax rate to 28%, collects international corporate taxes, closes loopholes like carried interest, and adds 0.01 financial transaction tax. He also wants to make billionaires pay taxes on their wealth and loans on it. Close inheritance tax loopholes, restore the top marginal tax rate at the 39.6%, reinstate Internal Revenue Service funding to go after tax cheats, and remove a cap that allows them to pay into the program at a fraction of the rate that most working class Americans pay. Exactly. Khanna, who is expected to run for president during the next cycle, also contrasted his plan with the budget reconciliation package currently moving through GOP. That is a big, bad bill. GOP Congress. His reports asserts that the Republican legislation is not responsibility. It's a giveaway to the wealthy that stakes future generations with the bill. Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. How about no subsidy or entitlement in government won't compute with a capitalist system? You have to have some sort of redistribution, or else the mathematical formula for capitalism is to take all. It is just that way. Look, the fact that capital grows at a faster rate than book pass interest and labor tells you that the formula for capitalism is to take all the wealth out of the lower classes and then ultimately have indentured servitude. That is just a formula. I didn't make it. That's just how it works. And it's simple. You have a pie that all of us participate in. It is growing. And if it's growing at 7% for capital, people who own capital, but if you have a passbook where you get payment for your passbook savings, you get 0.5% or 1% or whatever, and all the other income you have is through work, which gains 0% as far as wealth accumulation and capture. It actually tells you that eventually you move on to solely servitude. It's a mathematical formula, Leader Bearcat. So saying we don't want redistribution in a capitalist society absolutely says that you are okay, that eventually we will all be indentured servants. Just remember that. That's the capitalist formula. I didn't make it. All right. In the chat, Cheryl Elkin says, good morning. Today's quote of the day for me: the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. A reminder that everything we do, no matter how small, is moving the needle. Keep at it, everyone.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.